Hi, you're on mute. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay.
So you were able to get in because you are a host. So I'm just waiting for Freddie, and then we're gonna have to.
There's a blank entered the way.
Waiting. So I don't know who that is. I'm sure if it was Freddie. Let me see.
Or is it?
Yeah, I don't know.
Or
Dr.
Clinton?
Valley.
Is that his name? Dr. Clinton Valley.
Dr. Clinton Valley, yeah.
I guess you could admit whoever it is and dump them out if it's the wrong person.
No, this can't be them because this person is coming on audio. I'm going to put that person back in the waiting room.
Oh, girl, I feel like a failure.
Why?
So I went to the office today. First time in I don't know how long. And I was I got this sign to try to get some branding behind me, but when I put it up, it looked retarded.
The other one wasn't there?
No, apparently Kim Hayes has it, apparently, and nobody knew that until today.
Oh my goodness. And I know we can't be Dr. Valley waiting to get in from a phone.
Right.
And
yeah, maybe it was just an attendee.
Yeah, so I just put them back in the waiting.
And then when I was there, I realized how much I had missed my big screen. And so I got my screen and my printer. Now wait, this is different stuff. What's happening, Robin? So we're no longer in a test. Is that what you're doing?
That was webinar. That's Zoom webinar that does the test. And we have to broadcast it.
Oh.
It's like different. With the meeting, I have to actually admit people in.
I see.
So yeah. Hi. Oh, you guys are on mute. They're on mute. We can't hear you.
All right.
I was sounding good to myself, but I was talking to myself. So this is the first sign that you're losing it, you know?
Yeah.
How's everybody doing?
Doing well, Robin. Paula.
Doing fine.
Good.
You look so smart with all those books behind you.
Yes, all props. They're not real books.
Probably read all of them, overachiever, right?
Yes.
So
your name is.
I'm telling you that GED works, Robin. Come on
now. Dr. Clinton Valley, right? Yeah.
That's right.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Did I give you the wrong name? Please tell me I didn't.
You're right, Clinton Valley. You called me Dr. Clinton.
Did I give you Valley Clinton?
No, it was one thing said Dr. Clinton, but then I kept reading and then it said Dr. Clinton Valley. So I was like, is Clinton his first name? His last name?
Clinton is the first name, but you know.
Dr. Clinton Valley, yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so I see what you mean, yes. And I think I've been calling him Dr. Clinton. I don't know.
Yes, I answer to Dr. Clinton, I answer to Clinton, I answer whatever.
Okay.
That is my dog, but I will be going dark, so you won't hear or see anything. I can't, he's in rare form. He's like 15 years old. He does what he wants to do. But I'm going to be going on mute, so nobody will hear that. So a couple of things I wanted to go through before we bring this live is wanted to make sure that Dr. Clinton, that you can share your video, your presentation. So if you could share that for us just to make sure that that's working.
This works. Let's see.
Okay, and you know how to, you can put it in full screen and stuff, right?
Yes, I can, to make sure.
And so, Robin, it looks like there's no conference slide until the end. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Is that all right?
Yeah, that's fine.
Say now if it's not, or we can change it, or forever hold your peace.
Yes.
You can change it,
Can you
yes.
go to the end so that
The
Paula can
conference
see the
slide is the
conference
last
slide?
slide I was, yes, the last slide is the conference slide.
Yep.
Great.
Okay, and the second thing is,
You can see it in slide mode.
Mm-hmm.
and the
All right.
second thing is, I know we wanted to discuss again the Q&A. So Dr. Valley, is Paula going to kind of moderate your Q&A for you?
Yes, I will appreciate that, and I'm left to think and answer the question, yes.
Okay,
Okay.
awesome. So you good with that, Paula?
Yep.
And then the last,
So, Freddie, you're not speaking at all?
No, unless you punt it to
Okay.
me to do the brief introduction. If not, I'll just be online observing.
Okay.
And I'm comfortable with that.
and then lastly, well, not lastly, but the next thing is the breakout rooms. So we practiced that today. I got it how we need it. So I just need you, Dr. Valley, let's go over how we're going to transition into the breakout rooms.
All right, so we let's see. So my last slide will be a wrap up, you know, as influence is an extraordinary asset. As I come to the end of this, I would say you have received a copy of the case study that I want us to look at this time as we put into practice some of the things that we have looked at this evening. And then I need to know what to say next.
So once do you want
I can go to the case study, which as I said, is here. But my question was, and of course you probably will say that at least they have the hard copy. But when they get to the breakout room, I was wondering how will they have access to the case study? Because
so they will not have access to the case study in the breakout rooms. So that's why it was sent to them. Actually, sent it to them twice. I sent it to them about a couple of hours ago, and I sent it to them yesterday.
Fine.
So I asked them to look at it. You might want to, once you start to transition into the breakout rooms, you might want to just briefly talk about the case study briefly, and then kind of give them what your expectations of them is inside of the breakout rooms. And I don't know, once they come out of the breakout rooms, I don't know if you were going to ask questions and ask them to, answer the questions through the chat. I'm not sure what you were going to do once they come out of the breakout rooms. Because I think Freddie, you talked a little bit about the case study once they came out of the breakout rooms.
And what I do, Clinton, is when I'm ready, I was explaining what they're going to do. Then I would say, we're going now into our breakout rooms, which signals the producer to make the transfer.
Right.
Okay.
But the question was, when coming out of the breakout rooms, do I have responses? And maybe, we obviously wouldn't be able to have 12 responses, but I would certainly like to have a couple of responses from groups.
Mm-hmm.
So I believe what you did, Freddie, was once we came out of the breakout room, you asked a couple of questions, right? And you had people put in the chat their answers.
That, or they can respond verbally with it as well. So you got that option. Sometimes if it's a lot of folk responding at one time, the chat may be the way to do it.
Yeah, I think that. What do you think, Paula? I'm thinking the chat room.
I think the reason why we went to the chat last time was because there was a little bit of holdup in getting out of getting in and out of the breakout rooms, but having that live chat, the person face to face, if we could even get one or two, would
That's
help.
what I'm thinking. I mean, are the groups numbered? I mean, I could just pick the groups here. What do you think group
Yeah.
6, you know, with respect to number 1, you know?
So
Are the groups numbered so that they'll know who they are?
They won't, they have to pay attention to.
yeah, and then once they get out of the group, I can't go back and unmute whoever was in group 1. Say group 1 was 5 people. After I don't know who those 5 people are. That means I would have to go unmute those 5 people, go back into the group, find who they were, unmute them so they can speak. You understand what I'm saying? Because everybody, I would
Right,
have
no, that's not feasible.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So it's maybe, you know, let's just hear from any of the groups who have a thought on, you know, that whatever particular question you ask.
Yes, you know, I like to hear other voices,
Yeah.
if at all possible. You know, the chat is good, but you know, it's somewhat, it's not as effective as actually hearing, you know, all of us hearing another voice.
All right, I'm trying to, let me kind of think about.
Could we have a raise the hand, you know?
Yeah, so what I'm going to do right now is I am going to mute. What I'm going to do is I'm going to mute you all, right? And then I want somebody to raise their hand, and I'm going to see if I could just, I don't know how that would be with a whole lot of people. Am I going to be able to, because I can't see everybody at one time, but I want to see what happens when a person raises their hand, okay?
Okay.
I'm going to mute. Oops. So the only thing, what's going to happen with that is I'm going to have to go down the line and find that person. They don't just pop up. You understand what I'm saying? So let's try it that way. I think it might work.
You mean raising hands? So I didn't even see the options to raise my hand.
So Freddie raised his hand.
Under reactions at the bottom, you can do a thumbs up. That's what they have.
Oh yeah, yeah, that's what I saw. Either that or the
I
clap.
was looking for the regular raise hand, but
yeah,
it's a thumbs up.
We can do that, or we can have people unmute themselves, which makes me a little nervous.
I think unmuting, you can try that, and then if it gets a little unwieldy, then go switch to the thumbs up.
Yeah, Robin, I did that yesterday with a group of execs. I just had everybody unmute. I just unmuted everybody and left them again to speak in. If it gets a little unwieldy, you can go to the person you recognize and shut everybody else down if you want to.
Okay, so I wonder, Dr. Clinton or Paula, once we get to that part, if you can give them instructions. So Dr. Clinton, if you want, say group 1, can I have one representative from group 1? Tell us a little bit about your discussion or whatever you want them to say. Then we'll have, then one person from group 1 can come, and then you can go so forth and so on. Like group 2, can I have one person from group 2? Then that person will speak. We can do that, try it that way. So this way you're kind of giving them some direction of who you want to speak. So how does that sound?
Unmute yourself, Clinton. Unmute yourself.
I can't hear you. Uh-oh, we can't. Let me see if I can unmute him. Why am I not able to unmute him?
All right.
Clinton?
Yes, I'm saying they know initially that which group they belong to. Is that correct? When they go into the group, they know that they're going into group 6.
No.
They don't.
They don't.
I'm gonna think of it
so
now.
If I call group 6, they wouldn't know that they belong to group 6. No, I think it's just to unmute everybody and just let's try it and see if who will respond.
Okay, so
And,
if I can do that, and if I see that it's unruly, Paula, then I'll just mute all.
sure.
And then I would just have to go back and unmute Dr. Clinton.
Right.
All right. And then, Dr. Valley, you only need me you want to do Q&A only at the end? At what point do you need me to assist with the engagement?
I was thinking, after we come out of the case study discussion, we could look at if there are any general questions on the presentation, and that's where you come in.
Okay.
So it's after the Q&A. Sorry, after the questions for reflection.
So we are good on the transition. We're good with once you come out of the transition, I'll just unmute everyone.
Mm-hmm.
And then Paula, you're good with the closing?
Yep.
I'm not gonna unmute everyone until after the breakout session. Prior to that, everybody will be muted.
Right.
Okay, we have 1 minute.
Okay.
Clinton,
Groups will there be?
Clinton, take your slide deck back to the beginning with your title page. Yeah.
How many groups will there be?
So we have 80 people confirmed.
No, how many groups, pardon me?
So we have 80 people confirmed. So I was thinking about putting about 6 people in a group, or do you want 5 people in a group? Put 5 people in a group.
5 people in a group will give us 14 groups, yes.
That's assuming everybody comes.
Right.
So,
So one thing I forgot to mention is I have to put Dr. Clinton, Freddie, and Paula in a group. So what I'm going to try to do is once you're in a group, I'm going to move you guys to a group, just the 3 of you, okay? So you won't be, so that might take a minute. So you might be inside that group for a few seconds until everyone is in, and then I'll move you out, okay?
Can you put this in presentation mode?
Yeah, that's what I'm gonna say.
You want it in presentation mode?
Right.
Yeah, because I'm about to start.
We have 8 people waiting to get in, okay? All right, Paul, I'm getting ready to. So Paul, I'm getting ready to go in, okay? 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Good evening, everyone. I am Paula Fontana, Vice President of Strategic Programming Initiatives at the National Black MBA Association, and it is my pleasure to welcome you to part 3 of our Gold Key series, Stewarding Influence, brought to us by True North Leadership Group. I would also like to thank and welcome our long-standing Gold Key sponsor, Liberty Mutual, to tonight's discussion, and you will hear more from them during our next installment of this series. So, based on the feedback that we've been getting from your survey responses, you have found this series to be just as engaging as we have, and I am sure that tonight will be no exception. Our facilitator for this evening is Dr. Clinton Valley. He is the Director of Leadership Studies at the University of the Virgin Islands. He's a former university provost, as well as a former university president, and he trains internationally. Dr. Clinton, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Paula, and good evening, everyone. It's indeed a pleasure to associate with True North Leadership and the Black MBA Association in this evening's presentation. The agenda I have for you looks like this. We want to first look at an introduction. We want to discuss the problem. We want to look at some perspectives, some practices. We'll do a case study, which you had already received. And then I want us to spend some time in some Q&A. We're looking forward to an enjoyable evening together. First of all, who's Clinton Valley? I am an educator and administrator, being a religious leader. I've been a faculty dean, a vice president, and university president, worked in the USA, in the UK, in the Caribbean. 43 years married to the same woman. I think she needs a gold star. We've got 2 adorable children, both married, and 2 amazing grandkids. I have authored or edited at least 5 books on leadership, working on a 6th, and currently working at the University of Virgin Islands as a professor of leadership and organizational behavior. And as I said, it's a pleasure to associate with Principal Russell and True North Leadership Group. I've known Principal Russell for over 30 years, and I've always been amazed at his leadership skills and abilities as he has led working with CEOs and organizational leaders across the world. Thank you, Freddie, for the amazing work that you do. Also want to say thanks to Paula and Robin for the fine work in coordinating this evening's presentation. So what's the problem? I suggest it's influence, as we're talking about this evening, how to have it, how to grow it, and how to actively use it. Influence. You know, your influence on a team can improve working relationships. Your influence on a team or in a supervisory role can make you more respected and appreciated. Your influence in the executive meeting can make your voice more likely to be acknowledged. Influence, friends, it's power. So we want to know how to use it effectively. As we deal with all our stakeholders on a daily basis, our boards and CEOs, or peers, or subordinates, or competitors, or creditors, or customers, or unions, all of these individuals that we deal with and entities that we deal with on a daily basis need our influence, and we need to be able to use it effectively in relating to these entities and individuals. To be effective, you must be able to influence others. Title wouldn't cut it. Your position is not enough to sway decisions. You've got to be able to influence. Dory Clark, author of Entrepreneurial You, said having influence in the workplace has clear value. So here are your questions. How do I become the go-to person that others look to for guidance and expert advice? How do I become the leader that people trust and respect? How do I motivate others to achieve goals and to effect change? In short, how do I become a good steward of my influence? All very important questions. And I want to share some perspectives as we address these questions. First of all, I want us to recognize that influence is intimately tied to leadership. When we're talking about influencing, we are talking about leading. About 12 years ago, I published my book, Help, I'm Being Followed. And there I talked about leadership is an influence process. From my years of studying and researching in the area of leadership, I've come to that conclusion, and I agree with much of the leadership literature that leadership is indeed an influence process. It's supported by people like John Maxwell. Leadership is influence, nothing more, nothing less. Bernard Montgomery, a former Army commander, a British Army commander, talked about leadership as the capacity and will to rally people to a common purpose together with a character that inspires confidence and trust. Montgomery has had some other deficits, but he was really on point with this particular issue. Note some of the elements that he emphasizes here as we drill down on his thought. First of all, he talks about the capacity and the will to rally people. Rally, a synonym for influence. To rally people to a common purpose. So we are together. We're not talking here about a selfish purpose. We're not talking about being narcissistic. We're not talking about being self-centered. We're talking about we goals. We're talking about working for a common purpose. And then he adds the moral dimension. the character that inspires confidence and trust. So the 3 C's that we could take away from Montgomery's definition, we're talking about a common purpose, we're talking about character, and we're talking about confidence and trust. These are key elements when we're talking about leadership and influence. General Colin Powell, leadership is all about people. It's not about organizations, it's not about plans, it's not about strategies. It is all about people, motivating, influencing people to get the job done. He says you have got to be people-centered. Central to influencing is to be able to really love people and be willing to work with people. So the key word for a leader is influence. Influencing the mindsets, influencing the behaviors, influencing the development of others in pursuit of common goals. You know, most organizations need fewer commanders and more influencers. You know, with so many of our organizations today, we have still the command and control mechanism. And in the bureaucratic structure that in so many organizations, the higher up you go, it's believed that the more people you are able to command. But we are looking now, you know, in organizational literature and leadership literature, we are looking for people who are willing to flatten structures and be more engaged in influencing people, so they are voluntarily engaging in the activities that that we suggest, rather than operating on contingent rewards and punishment or gotcha mentality, that you've got to do it for your own survival, you've got to do it for your job, it's, you know, because you have to pay your bills, etc. Rather, people want to do it because of you and the influence that you share. More influencers, less commanders, you know, organizations today, a crying need. So let's talk about the practices, and I want to spend some time on this area. I want to suggest to you that if you want to be better at influencing, which I'm sure you do, then you need to consider transformational leadership. So what is transformational leadership? Well, it's the modern idea of transformational leadership, you know, is based around 4 components described by Bernard Bass. Bass has developed on the work of McGregor Burns, and who had that seminal work in 1978. And Bass put together, in developing McGregor's work, 4 components of transformational leadership. 1, idealized influence. 2, inspirational motivation. 3, intellectual stimulation. And 4, individualized consideration. We'll unpack these in a moment. But as I said, it's expansion of the original ideas of James McGregor Burns, who in 1978 published that seminal work, Transforming Leadership. But Bass' work is what we're looking at here today, Bass Transformational Leadership Theory. And these 4 components are seen as the core of Bernard Bass' work, published in 2008. So let's talk first of idealized influence. What is that? Well, a leader who has idealized influence is one who's a role model, somebody who is looked up to, respected, regarded. We have the Mandelas of the world. We have, you know, the Oprah Winfrey's. We have the Barack Obamas, who exhibit that kind of idealized influence. But we don't have to go only to celebrities. We have them operating organizations, and we have them operating even in our local communities, people who we look up to and respect and regard, people who are trustworthy, people who are valued and respected. I was sharing this concept a few days ago in one of my classes, and one of the students said to me that, Dr. Valley, the person that I believe, has idealized influence for me is my elder brother. I believe in him. I love what he does. I love what he stands for. And I wish to emulate him in every regard. And I found that was amazing, where you can see it at the local level. Yes, we can see it in organizations, in terms of the leaders who we admire and respect and would like to emulate. And of course, we can see it on the national and international frontier. So it spans the various levels, idealized influence. And it's based on the concept that people believe in the messenger before they believe in the message. They have got to love you before they love what you say. So what kind of person are you in that regard? Are you the type of person that people believe in, that they can look up to, that they can regard? I regard this as the character dimension in the transformational leadership model that Montgomery talked about, where it's character, inspiring trust, inspiring confidence. That's the idealized influence, where people look to you first of all before they can believe what you say. You've got to be trustworthy before they are willing to listen to you. The second component that Bass talks about, inspirational motivation. And as the name implies, it's a leader who has inspirational motivation is one who motivates and inspires, who encourages you to excel. It's a leader who's friendly and supportive, a leader who's characterized by enthusiasm and optimism. And those kinds of leaders, when I was working out there in Walla Walla, Washington, some years ago, we had a professor on our faculty that we regard him as the Energizer Bunny, and of course he was a leader in that sense in the classroom. And 8 o'clock in the morning, you meet him in the morning and he's so full of energy and is so full of gusto, so full of life, so full of positivity. Top of the morning, welcome, hi, how you doing? Have a great day. And he lifted your spirits, even irrespective of how you felt when you met him. You had to smile, you had to perk up, because he was that kind of Energizer Bunny. Of course, my son had a close encounter with him, because my son was in his class, and my son sometimes overslept on his 8 o'clock class, and one morning, after about third miss, my son got a call at 7:50. Hi, Clinton, how are you doing? Great to know you're doing well. Make sure you're in my class in the next 10 minutes. Just that kind of personal inspiration that he gave, that just energized everyone he comes into contact with. Of course, in 2008, we had the rallying and uplifting slogan, "Yes, we can," that mobilized the nation and brought about, some phenomenal results, and the repercussions of it are still with us today. Yes, we can. Colin Powell again reminds us that perpetual optimism is a force multiplier. So as organizational leaders, as CEOs, you want to have that positive attitude, that never say die attitude, that spirit that always looks at the glass as being half full rather than half empty. You want to see the uplifting side, the winning side, and you are able to communicate that kind of optimism when you're in your meetings, or when you're speaking one-to-one with colleagues or peers or subordinates, that you are, though the situation may look grim, it may look dismal, you are able to provide that kind of motivation, and you can help show a way where there seems to be no way. That kind of spirit, that kind of yes, we can attitude works wonders in your ability to influence. Inspirational motivation. The third component that Bass talks about is intellectual stimulation. that's when you challenge others to be innovative and creative. And we certainly need more creativity and innovation in the workplace. There are too many organizations that are operating like door on a hinge, just go in and come out. They operate in the bureaucratic frame. They react to circumstances rather than being proactive in circumstances. Those organizations obviously tend to have a shorter shelf life. Who remembers, about IBM and Sony and some of the other organizations that were great in their heyday, but have struggled over time because they were not innovative, they were not creative. We as an organization, especially in these times in which we live, these fast-moving trends, the accelerating rate of technology, we obviously have to keep on top of the issues, be looking at emerging trends and making some quick decisions as how to respond to these trends to ensure that we keep alive, we survive and thrive in a changing environment. And that calls for a leader who is good at intellectual stimulation, a leader who is willing to challenge others to be innovative, challenge others to be creative. You're pushing them to go further, to go the second mile, to dig deeper. You ask them to question assumption. You question assumptions that they make. So it's not superficial, but you're drilling down deeper to ensure that you get the best decisions for your organization. The other element, of course, in intellectual stimulation is that you're willing to facilitate openness without fear of criticism. Too many leaders, talk about, I have an open door policy. My folks can come and tell me anything. But yet, when one person does, they may receive the brunt of your attack because you see every criticism as a personal criticism, as a personal affront. And so you respond in kind, negative way to that person who offers a criticism. Many of us like to be buttered up and just be told all the positives, how great we are, how good things are going. Like the king, has no clothes kind of concept. But the leader who is intellectually stimulating is one who is willing to facilitate openness, who's willing to listen to every voice. Without fear of criticism, without fear of any repercussions, reprimands, but we are willing to listen and to learn from other voices. It's amazing when reading the story of Marriott hotel chain, where the gardener is able to offer suggestions, and that could be considered, where everybody has a voice in the organization because good ideas are not restricted to the executive suite. At all levels of the organization, particularly people who are at the front lines, have some ideas that if we are willing to listen, if we are willing to offer the opportunity for interchange of ideas, that could be very helpful for the growth of the organization. So intellectual stimulation throughout the organization is, you want to have a learning organization, a growing organization, an open organization. And then, of course, you want to offer, foster a diverse and open environment, an environment that, whatever the texture of my hair, the color of my skin, my personal connections, I am still listened to and valued, in an open environment. So you foster that kind of spirit of openness where everybody has a voice and everybody is welcome. That's a person who's intellectually stimulating. And employees will love such a person, who they believe is willing to hear what they have to say. The final component is individualized consideration. That's what I regard as the touchy-feely aspect of the dimension of the model, where you act as a coach and a mentor to individuals. So you see individuals who could do with a helping hand, and you're willing to provide that support. You are not too busy in your own personal pursuits to reach back and help a fellow soldier along the way. I think, community, we need to spend some time working as coaches and mentors. Those of us who have been blessed and fortunate enough to have had, advanced degrees and positions of influence, or organizations, we need to look back and reach back to those who are trying to climb the ladder as we have done. We are a community of hope, and we need to be able to share that hope with others that we come into contact with. There are some of us who shut the doors when we get in, and look askance at anybody who may want to come close to us. We are very protective of our positions, and we believe that if we're being open, if we're being transparent, if we're being supportive, if we try to coach and mentor, then this person may eventually supersede us in our positions, in our roles, and so we are unwilling to share. But the person who is open, the person who's transparent, the world beats a path to that person's door. And if you're continuing growing, and continue learning, and continue, you will obviously be always ahead of the game. So I always believe, and I always encourage my students to be open, to train, to trust, to help others to grow. And so that as a leader, we are engaged in the process of building other leaders. You're tactful with criticism. In an aspect of growing others, there are times when we may need to comment on areas where they may need to exercise some growth. But there's a way in which you will want to do that. As a kid growing up in the Caribbean, I remember reading a comic strip cartoon called Dagwood and Blondie. And some of you, may have, had knowledge of this comic strip. But Dagwood, loved to make a particular sandwich, and that came to be known as the Dagwood sandwich. It was a sandwich with a thick slice of bread, then a thin slice of salami, followed by another thick slice of bread. So there were two thick slices of, really slabs of bread with a thin slice of salami in the middle. And it came to be known as the Dagwood sandwich. And I've used that in leadership to demonstrate how we should deal with criticism, or in offering criticism. You first of all start with a thick slice of compliment. Then there's a thin slice of criticism, and you follow up with another thick slice of compliment. So there's a 3C model. You compliment, you criticize, and then you compliment again. So that when you, perhaps enraged or frustrated by the behaviors of a subordinate, a secretary, assistant, an employee, and you're ready to dart in to go for the kill and to to actually leave this person on the floor, you need to just pause for a moment and say compliment first, because everybody has some value. And yes, they may have made perhaps even a dreadful mistake in this instance, but start with a compliment, offer the criticism, and then end with a compliment, so that you still retain the person's self-worth and dignity. We do not want to destroy people. We want to build people. We are in the building people's business, and individualized consideration helps us to focus upon that. So compliment, criticize, and then compliment. Express sincere appreciation and praise. Be liberal in appreciation, be liberal in praise. Offer the notes, the emails, the texts that to subordinates and colleagues, expressing your appreciation for the efforts. That goes a long way in terms of building your influence, building your trust, and building your respect with colleagues. And learn to question and not command. It's a technique that I've had to learn over the years, that rather than offering commands or making some statements that sound declarative and final, perhaps we can start with, what will happen if? Is there a possibility that? So we tone it down. It offers a question. Sometimes commands tends to put people on the defensive, whereas a question, certainly evokes responses. So that individualized consideration ensure, is asking you to question in your approach to finding answers rather than to command. Sometimes, your suggestion as a leader is really a command, but it doesn't carry the kind of sharp edge that a command does. And of course, you're approachable. And most importantly, you listen. You've got to listen. My mom used to always tell us as kids, the Lord has given you 2 ears and 1 mouth. You should listen twice as much as you speak. So let's learn to listen as leaders. So those are the 4 considerations we have. So we want to talk about your strategies now. How do you grow your ability to influence? And I have 7 suggestions for you. First of all, membership in professional organizations. You need to belong to professional organizations like you are now with the Black MBA and other organizations. But you need more than just belonging to organizations. You need to be attending the national and regional conferences. You need to be active in these organizations, because your presence at these organizations put your name in the right league. You have the associate. You get to associate with colleagues of like minds, or sharing ideas and so forth, and building friendships. We also want to look at self-directed learning. You need to keep growing as a leader, because when you stop growing, you start going. So get some self-directed learning through reading, through classes, through journaling, through research. The TED Talks, the Harvard Business Review articles, the Inc. magazine, etc. So you want to be having that as a regular diet, intellectual diet as you continue to grow as a leader. Of course, you want to be involved in networking with colleagues in other organizations. We talked about formal and informal mentoring earlier on, but also seeking opportunities to demonstrate your potentials so that you offer your services in areas. Not every assignment needs to have a price tag, so that you will only move if there is a dollar sign associated with it. Sometimes the opportunities that it provides will be more valuable to you in the long run than simply the dollar sign. So look for opportunities where you can demonstrate your potentials, you can develop your skills, you can reveal your expertise to others. That will go a long way in terms of building your influence and developing your profile. And then the last one is honest personal reflections. To have time with self, the away time, the downtime, the offline time, when you are with your thoughts, reflecting on past experiences, past events, past modes of operations, where you look back at your own life and you seek to turn experience into knowledge, stuff that you did that perhaps didn't come off as well, and you learn better responses, or stuff that came off quite well, and you want to cement that. You build on your strengths, and you try to minimize your weaknesses as you continue to turn your past experience into knowledge. But as you progress and as you seek to build and steward your influence, I want to encourage you to be assertive, but not aggressive. There's a Japanese proverb that says, the nail that sticks out shall be hammered down. So if you seem to be aggressive, to be offensive, to be overbearing, then certainly it will work negatively toward your influence. Influence is about building human capital or social capital, and it comes over time through the series of activities that we have talked about this evening. But I'm saying that if it's not done well, you can be withdrawing from that capital account that you have, and it diminishes your influence, your ability to influence. So be assertive, but not aggressive. Influence is an extraordinary asset. I want to encourage you to use it to become more respected in the workplace. You can use it to impact organizational decision-making, and certainly you can use it to support others on their career journey. Now, I want us to go to the case study that you have received, and to spend a few minutes. We probably will have about 8 minutes to look at this and look at the questions for reflection. It's about a chief marketing officer, Marcy Schinder, from World Market, the New York City-based firm, that used some of the stuff that we talked about here this evening to establish support and to build rapport in her organization. And I want us to have a look at it and share your ideas. And I asked a couple individuals from groups to share at the end. So now we'll go into our breakout session. Okay, are we all here? Oh, yes.
Yes,
I
it
trust
looks like we're good.
Are we all here?
Yes, you can feel free to start now.
I trust we all had a good discussion on this case study. Interesting to hear some of the views. So I'd like to hear from one or two of you. If you can unmute yourself and share about Marcy's strengths and challenges of her, of her approach and the impact of her strategies. Talk to us, about Marcy's strategies, what you have discussed in your group and your personal reflections on Marcy's strengths and challenges of her strategies and its impact. Please feel free to unmute yourself and share your.
I would add our team talked about how she was very people focused, people centric. You can see she's got a sales background. She tried to make it very comfortable, and she was very intent on listening, not to listen to be heard, but listen to understand them, their point of view. And then she took that information to then tailor how she was going to be a part of their business and move the company forward with each of them in a specific way.
So very good, very good. Appreciate it. Yes. Any other? Any challenges that you see when the approach that she used, the strategy she employed?
Dr. Valley, this is Tyrone Ellis of the Charlotte chapter. Just a couple of comments, piggyback on the last comments. Certainly to seek first, to understand and be understood. I mean, she did that well. I think one of our members talked about her ability to read personality profiles and really understand that person as well as their functional area and what their business interests were. So she had an innate ability to do very well and kind of tailor the message to the person and their organization. I think there were kind of two cons when we talked about our potential challenges that I heard. One was in regards to, seemed like she was very targeted toward senior leaders and not necessarily getting a good vibe across the organization, throughout the organization, which there could be risks there, right? If you get just the point of view of the at the top, people close to you at or work could be a much different mindset or different than what the CEO is saying. I think Mariel said that was a great comment. I think there was another comment around she's tailoring the message differently for each person.
Right.
Got to make sure that that story is actually the same, and there could be some risk around the perception of that person could be different than the next person. So ensuring that the takeaways were equivalent for everyone, even when she tailored the message differently.
Definitely.
Those were a couple of comments that we heard.
Thank you, Tyrone. Appreciate it. Yes, she really lived out, Bass's concept of individualized consideration. That when she was targeting the message, she first understood the person. She first looked at the person's strengths, the challenges, and what will be of interest to the person, and seek to tie her aspirations with the interests of the person. And that's very important to do, in that your goals are not good goals, but our goals are good goals. So you want to make sure that in influencing, you're seeking to bring the person along by speaking to issues that are of concern to them, so that you get the buy-in. So that you have to tie in those concepts very well, together. What you would like to happen and what they would like to see. Very important. Thank you, Tyrone. Appreciate it. Let's get another perspective. Takeaways from this experience.
This is
Dr. Valley,
Deb.
this is Jeffrey
ahead.
Thomas. I was just going to say that definitely it's not a one size fits all, which Mr. Ellis said earlier. She had to craft the message for each person, but that's a lot of work too. It takes time to do that kind of crafting. And I guess the only con would be make sure you have enough time to do that kind of research to tailor those messages to your audience.
Right. Very well. Thank you. Debbie?
Oh, I was just gonna say, I really appreciated the fact that she put herself out there and joined organizations and talked to industry experts and stayed on top of the, to be an influencer, bringing something to the table, if you will. So I really thought that was a good idea.
Sure. That's one of the strategies we talk about, keep learning, keep growing, keep becoming. Certainly that's, excellent aspect of your growing as an influencer, keeping on the cutting edge. Thank you so very much. Good comments. Any final comment before we move to, and we can move to some general Q&As on the presentation as a whole. Do you think that BAS transformational leadership model, is applicable where in your workplace context? What are your views on transformational leadership, as a leadership model as a whole? Let's talk together.
It's extremely applicable, without a doubt. So it's great information. I think someone asked Dr. Valley and me with the slides or the recording be made available to us.
Yes, certainly. Yeah.
Okay.
We'll have that passed on. Yes. Knowledge is common property. So, whatever have we, and whatever we have, we should be willing to share because it's common property.
I was going to add that I think transformational leadership right now and just being more people-centric is going to be very important, especially post-COVID. How companies operate within themselves, with their consumers, is going to change. How we innovate, the way we do business is completely has to be re-innovated. And so I think you will see the companies that survive are the ones that are being very adaptive, being very fluid. And I think that happens with open-mindedness and this type of leadership and people-centric focus from the inside out.
Definitely. And, we are looking now to move away from the bureaucratic structures. I said to flatten those structures, to have organizations that focus more upon the development of its people and give people scope. Many organizations now are, are strengthening the R&D department and also making R&D, part of the organizational culture. So that I think at Google, for instance, they talked about having given workers a percentage of the time where they can just dawdle, and many of the new inventions and so on come, from that period where workers are paid just to dawdle, just to think and create any stuff that that comes to the mind, So we need to have more of that kind of organic approach to leadership, where organizations are flat, where we focus upon skills and abilities rather than structure and titles and positions. Such organizations are going to find it more difficult. Those mechanistic organizations will find it more difficult to survive and thrive in our current environment. I mean, COVID, threw a curveball at organizations where you've had to be nimble in order to survive this environment. You know, the school culture, for instance, that's basically has been a bastion of bureaucracy, is struggling with the issue, you know, should we go back to classes? Should we go back to life as we knew it? But we have to recognize that life will never be the same. And we need to see such challenges, you know, of COVID and other crises that come into our sphere as windows of opportunities rather than threats to our survival. So I see a window of opportunity with respect to COVID and online learning and you know, entering more into the digital universe than we have heretofore done. So it has opened up new vistas for us as organizations. So yes, we need to look at it positively while we mourn the loss of life and the challenges that you know, society is facing and trying to deal with it, and the impact upon families and businesses and so on. We also need to see the flip side as to what can we learn from this? How can we survive and thrive through this this environment? So, as you know, Colin Powell talks about, perpetual optimism is a force multiplier. So, look for the positives in every situation. Final comments.
Well, the last two comments, this is Angela Michael, made me think about, you know, the environment with the customer internally within the corporation, and, you know, from a transformational standpoint, the idea of safety, you know, for employees is essential, you know, for productivity all the way across the board, and their their outlook on seeing the company actually move forward. So I'm really kind of curious to learn new ways in this new world that we are moving in. Yes. To establish that, you know, the amnesty, the safety, really looking for new ideas on that.
Sure. And if there are no rule books, there are no guidebooks, you know, so we are in uncharted territory. And it's the creativity and innovation in the workplace, in organizations that will come up with the ideas, will come up with the perspectives and approaches in order to life to continue and organizations to survive and thrive. And that's what I'm saying, that, you know, every voice counts. And not only within the organization, some organizations are going to crowdsourcing, you know, to look for ideas even from, you know, through using social media. So we need ideas, you know, you're right. And the ideas that may come from different quarters, and we need to be willing to pursue those ideas and seek to build our organization.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone. And thank you, Dr. Valley, for your session this evening. If you wouldn't mind putting up that last slide for me, that would be great.
Sure.
So a couple of housekeeping things. Our final series installment for Gold Key prior to conference is Learning Agility, and that will occur on August 19th. So make sure that you are registered for that session. Also, your feedback is very important to us. So you will see in the chat box a survey link, and the first 25 people to complete the survey will be entered in a chance to win one of 2 Amazon gift cards. So you want to make sure that you enter and do not delay so you can get that gift card. And then last but certainly not least, our first ever virtual conference experience registration is open. You do not want to miss this engaging programming that we have in store for you. So you will also see a link to register in the chat box as well if you haven't already done so. And we look forward to seeing you participate in that. Again, thank you so much for your time this evening. and I hope you have a wonderful rest of your night.